Scientists discovers cells that ingest vaccine aluminium are the same cells found in autistic brains. Now, this is a story that has been running for a while now. And again, if you look at the evidence, there is an obvious connection between vaccines and autism. If you just go down to the basic cause and effect level, never mind the detailed evidence, as with smartphones and social media, you find cause and effect. So it's in the explosion of vaccines era that autism has gone through the roof. It's in the smartphone social media era that teenage anxiety and suicide, etc., has gone through the roof. Dr. Christopher Exley, a professor in bioorganic chemistry at Keele University, explains what happens to aluminium when it is injected via a vaccine. What's happening in our world, the article says, with regards to the censorship of information is unbelievable. It's truly Orwellian. We now have multiple ministries of truth that are determining what is real and what is fake, what is legit and what's not. You would think that human beings are capable of determining their own what's considered fake news. Shouldn't we, the people, be allowed to decide? Well, no, because they don't want you deciding, and actually this makes sense to me. The truth is that this censorship of information is happening on all fronts, and talks about an organization called NewsGuard, which is a front for the system that sets out to stop information being published, posted, that the system doesn't want people to see. Anyway, the story goes on to talk about vaccines and the suppression of information about the dangers of vaccines. It says here, vaccines are a big topic and mainstream media is constantly bombarding any paper, publication or information that calls into question the safety of vaccines. Social media giants are censoring articles, no matter how well sourced, presented and credible they are, that paint vaccines in a harmful light. Tactics currently used by the mainstream are simply ridiculing anybody that questions the safety of vaccines and labeling information that paints them in a harmful light as anti-vaccine propaganda. But it is ignoring the fact that there are many scientists who've started to recognize the background to and consequences of vaccines and are speaking out about it. One of the best examples, the article says, is Dr. Christopher Exley, this professor in bioorganic chemistry at Keele University, who's considered by many to be the world's leading expert in aluminium toxicology. One ingredient that hasn't gone through appropriate safety testing is the aluminium adjuvant that's used in vaccines. A study published in 2011 makes the issue quite clear. Aluminium is an experimentally demonstrated neurotoxin and the most commonly used vaccine adjuvant. Despite almost 90 years of widespread use of aluminium, medical science's understanding about their mechanisms of action is still remarkably poor. There is also a concerning scarcity of data on toxicology and pharmacokinetics of these compounds. In despite of this, the notion that aluminium in vaccine is safe appears to be widely accepted, even though it's blatantly a nonsense. Experimental research, however, clearly shows that aluminium has a potential to induce serious immunological disorders in humans. The key takeaway here is that medical science's understanding about their mechanisms of action is still remarkably poor, but they make definitive statements anyway. After this study, more research came out to help us better understand what happens when aluminium is injected into the body. It's been found that injected aluminium does not exit the body. In fact, it stays in the body and travels to various organs in the brain where it remains. This isn't surprising, since it's the adjuvant designed to stay there, or else the vaccine doesn't work. So it's not even designed to be ejected by the body. As the groundbreaking study in 2015 emphasized, evidence that aluminium-coated particles in the injected muscle and its draining lymph nodes can disseminate within words I can't begin to pronounce, throughout the body and slowly accumulate in the brain further suggests that aluminium's safety should be evaluated in the long term. Furthermore, in 2018, a paper published in the Journal of Inorganic Biochemistry found that almost 100% of mice injected with aluminium in the muscle had the aluminium absorbed into the systematic circulation and traveled to different sites in the body, such as the brain, the joints, and the spleen, where it accumulated and was retained for years after the vaccination. Exley has been interviewed multiple times on this subject, and all of these studies and his research point to the same findings. Aluminium in vaccines does not exit the body, and it has been linked to multiple diseases which can develop immediately post-injection or up to decades later in life for certain neurological diseases such as Alzheimer's. A study by Exley and his team, published in 2018, should have made headlines everywhere, as it discovered historically high amounts of aluminium in autistic brains. The study was conducted by some of the world's leading scientists in the field. Other studies by multiple scientists in the field have shown massive damage to motor neurons in the brain of mice and sheep as a result of the aluminium when injected, as well as behavioral abnormalities in sheep and mice, along with cognitive decline. In an interview, Exley answers a lot of questions, but the article says the part that caught my attention was this, with Exley saying, "We have looked at what happens to the aluminium adjuvant when it's injected, and we have shown that certain types of cells come to the injection site and take up the aluminium inside them. You know, these same cells we also see in the brain tissue in autism." So for the first time, we have a link that honestly I had never expected to find between aluminium as an adjuvant in vaccines, and that same aluminium potentially could be carried by those same cells across the blood-brain barrier, which is supposed to protect the brain from toxicity, into the brain tissue where it could deposit the aluminium and produce a disease, brain damage. It could produce the more severe and disabling form of autism. This is really shocking to find. Well, yes, it is, but people interested in the truth have been pointing this out for ages. And again, you have to stop the cause and effect being exposed. Otherwise, vaccines go on public display for what they are, a destroyer of health and a destroyer of lives. Another story this week. Is fluoride in water toxic to babies' brains? A rigorous study raises alarms. This is a study that's found that actually fluoride is harmful to developing brains, which some of us have been pointing out for decades and been ridiculed for. The study was by Canadian researchers and found that a pregnant woman who drank more fluoridated water had children with lower intelligence scores at ages 3 and 4. pointing out in my books years and years and years ago the connection between fluoride and the suppression of intelligence. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. No, it's not. It's the truth.